In this step, we are going to use the process that we have already created, and we are going to extend it. First of all, we're going to demonstrate how we can integrate external resources to our Eclipse projects. So we return to Eclipse and under source /main/resources, we add a new file, which is going to be a custom-made JSON file. We're going to name it Greece.json because it contains information about the Greek civil protection structure. We open the file using the text editor. Of course, the file is blank. I'm going to copy paste already created information. So this is a custom JSON file that includes information about the structure of the administrative structure of Greece. It has this key called regions, that underneath it are the 13 regions of Greece, like Crete, Western Greece, etc. And underneath them we have the regional units, and we have forest services, the municipalities, etc. This JSON file is created by us because it suited our needs in the business process for forest fires in Greece. So we add this file in our project structure, and then in the processes.xml file we are going to add this resource under inside the tag called resource. So our project knows that we have added a new JSON file. So we save the XML file. The next thing is how are we going to show how we're going to access this resource in our process. So return to our process BPMN file. Just a second. Okay. Every task or every node inside the BPMN in Camunda has a properties panel and some tabs. In each node or task, we can add a listener which executed when this task or node is active. So in the starting node of our process, we add a listener which will not be Java class bar script. If we want a Java class, we can follow the steps described in the previous video, but now we're going to use a JavaScript written inside the node. Here we type JavaScript, and in this text box we are going to type our code. I'm going to copy paste the code, and I will explain to you. So the first thing is that we have to access and to get the process definition ID of our process. The execution variable is a global variable that it gives us access to the execution API. So we get this process definition ID, and knowing this, we can access the deployment ID. What we have to type is execution.get process and services.get repository service.get process definition. Here you enter the process definition ID that we have accessed in our previous step, and then .get deployment ID. This deployment ID is very important because using this we can access all our resources that are deployed from our project, and using this syntax, var resource equals execution.get process engine services, get repository service, get resource as stream. Here we put the deployment ID, and here is the name of our resource. If we use a different resource, we just change the name. Everything else is exactly the same. Another thing is that we're going to use some standard Java classes in order to use some useful functions, because we are going to firstly we're going to deserialize the data and transform it to a byte array. So we are going to use this. Actually, we're going to use the string class. Something here a very important note: whenever we use an extra library, we have to declare it in the dependencies section in the pom.xml file of our Eclipse project. For example, here, because we are going to use this library, we return to Eclipse. We are going to pom.xml file, and here in dependencies, we add the library. Right here, this is the name of the library, and this is its version. We save the file. We return to Camunda, and then we can use our library. We create a variable called myconfig file. We use this S symbol, is the spin data format used by Camunda in order to serialize and deserialize objects. And we create a new string from the byte array of the resource. We choose the encoding, and finally we assign this newly created config file to a process variable called _configuration. This _configuration will contain all the information of the JSON file, and it will be available throughout our process. If we want to have access to additional information concerning the JavaScript API or the Spin format, we can always refer to the official Camunda documentation right here. Okay, in our left panel, under reference and Java talk, what interests us, interests us is the BPM engine class and the repository service and the get resource upstream. In addition, the spin data formats under JSON. This is the reference of how to handle these JSON formats, something that we will see in the next step. So here we have created a process file called underscore configuration containing the whole JSON file. Then we're going to create a new step, a new task that is going to use the information from the JSON file, and more specifically, it will iterate through the regions, and for each region, he will create a new process specific attached to this region. The new process is created by selecting this rectangular. We'll insert a starting node, a task, and a net node. The task, we'll click on the range tool and we choose a user task. The task, the assignee will be the demo. The name of the task will be ask, for example, ask expert. Okay, and then we return to our mother, our first process. We click on the red tool, and then if we use call activity, because from this task we're going to call this process, something that we are going to do repetitively. So we click in the range tool, and we click on these three parallel lines. We give it a name. Then in the general tab of the properties panel, we have to do two things. Under the details sections, the call activity type, we select BPMN, and then we have to insert the process ID of the called element, which is this alphanumeric. Of course, you can change it. It's very important, because I forgot it, to mark the newly created, the new process as executable. Okay, then we return to the notify regions task, and then in the collection we have to insert the collection of objects in which the task will iterate. So when there's hashtag, curly bracket, when the process that we have created called configuration, if I am not mistaken, just a minute to check it again. It's called configuration. Then, using the reference of the official reference of Camunda about the spin data format, we can see how we can access the JSON information. For example, if we want to read JSON, and actually we want to access the keys of JSON, we use the following syntax. Okay, this one, this box is what we want to do. Is we use the field names function, and if we want to access a specific object of the JSON, we use the prop function like over here. So our syntax will be underscore configuration prop regions, because we want to access all the regions. So we select prop regions, underneath it all the 13 regions of Greece. And then we type field names and we close the curly bracket. So this thing is going to iterate over the 13 regions, and in every time we have this region variable. So in the first loop, this region will be Crete. In the first iteration, the second one will be Western Greece, and etc. Another thing is that we have to do is we are going to map the variables from the first process to the second process. This can be done in the notify regions task in the variables. So we have this mapping. We press the input mapping, we press the plus sign, we select source expression. So actually we have two variables. The first variable is the region, and we map it to a region variable in the second process. And we can map another variable like the variable sensor reading that we have used in our previous tutorial. And we are ready. So when this task is going to be activated, it will be iterate over this collection. In each iteration, this variable will be updated, and in each iteration, it will initiate this process, and it will feed this process with these two variables, the region variable and the sensor read variable. So if we go to this process, we can easily use these names. So for example, in the Ask Expert task, we can easily create a form. This is another way to create a form. It's very easy. It's easy, but it's of limited capabilities. We add in the Forms tab, we add the Forms field. It will be a string. The label, for example, it would be region name. The value will be hashtag the region variable, and another another for field called will be of type string, sensor reading, and of course the value will be the sensor reading. Okay, we save the process, and everything is fine. We're going to build it. So we turn to Eclipse. We right click on pom.xml, run as, Maven install. Okay, the build was successful. Then we copy the created .war file to from our local folder to the web apps folder of our Camunda installation, our web server. And we can use the Camunda web apps for to verify that our installation is valid, is correct. So we use the Camunda cockpit to test our process. We can do it quickly. Okay, we see in the deployments that our process has been uploaded. Then we go to the Camunda task list. We start the process. We search for the demo process. Here it is. We click on start. Of course, if you remember in our previous lesson, we have defined this sensor reading variable and we have assigned a true. So the task, the positive value task, is activated, and the assigned is demo, the user demo1. We can claim it. We click on complete, and then 13 new processes are created because the region of quiz are 13, and each ask expert task runs in a different process with a different variable set. For example, this task is for South Aegean. Of course, the sensor reading is the same.